Welcome to my first analysis video. We are going to examine the early laning phase of a game for patch 13.3. Here we can see Diana and I will be the first to secure vision of the river, while Caitlyn and Yasuo will have low to no impact on our map control. This makes me adapt my movement to have a more cautious approach into the river.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
As I will be the first to arrive in the river, I approach the river bush from a lower angle. I notice that Pyke is approaching the river bush with their Oracle lens active. Lilia is also there but poses no threat. Thanks to my pathing, I have not yet been spotted by the enemies. Pyke's Oracle lens will reveal me if I stay. I exit the bush and throw a spear directly to Pyke. First of all, entering a bush activates my prowl passive, which gives me 10% movement speed, increased to 30% towards enemy champions, while in a bush and 2 seconds after exiting. My spear has multiple purposes. First of all, it deals damage, and generally people react to taking damage by stepping back. Dealing damage with my spears or traps activates Hunt, and while my target is hunted, I have true sight of them for 4 seconds. While my Hunt passive is active, I gain another 10% movement speed, increased to 30% towards enemy champions. This means that I currently gain 20 to 60% movement speed while maneuvering near Pyke. 2 sources of movement speed, vision on the threat, and making them flinch is enough to escape Pyke. I make sure to run closer to the jungle entrance, so I have 3 directions to dodge Pyke. Just for caution, I keep my finger on the flash button to quickly react in case Pyke flash pulls. Now that Pyke turned back, I gain vision of Kai'Sa and Lilia. If their entire bot side is together with Pyke, nobody is defending the tri-bush, so I head over there and punish their lack of vision control. With this ward, I gain vision of one of 2 potential paths the enemy bot lane takes from their red to their lane. If Lilia goes Krux second and ganks bot after that, this ward will also warn us. At this time, I was grabbing my phone to read a message while keeping vision of our jungle exit in case the enemies were still intent on invading. This was a potential mistake, but didn't end up punishing me.
Minions have spawned.
While waiting for blue to spawn, I place myself in the bush to keep my prowl passive active and control vision in the river. I also distance myself from blue, so my spear deals more damage. I use the blue spawn timer to time my spear early enough to hit, but not so early that I can potentially miss. If timed well, you'll be in time for basic attacking while also still doing a high damage spear. I switch to Cougar form immediately after auto attacking. My Cougar Q counts as a basic attack reset, so I want to do it as quickly as I can. I also move towards the lane to be in time to approach the tri-bush. The enemies made the mistake of taking a route they don't have vision of, so I run an indirect path to stay out of their vision range when they enter the bush and sneak a free spear. Immediately after throwing my spear, I swap to Cougar form. This is done to maximize first strike. Ranged champions gain 70% of the bonus damage as gold, but melee champions gain 100%. In this case, swapping to melee gave me 4 additional gold. I also want to activate Cougar form as soon as possible, so I can become ranged when I approach the minions. Both carries will need to cast their spells to ensure they don't miss any minions. Since Pyke is approaching as well, it forces me to fall back behind the caster minions. I enter the bush to break vision and claim my 10 to 30% movement speed from prowl. Remember this effect for each time I enter a bush. Since Caitlyn is safe behind her minions, I can try to advance to the next bush and pressure the enemies away. Pyke is preparing to pull while Caitlyn is safe behind her minions, which means he's gonna target me. I run back for more room to dodge his pull. Caitlyn immediately punishes Pyke by hitting a basic attack, forcing him back. I can now return to my original plan of capturing their bush. Because Caitlyn starts walking forward to secure the territory I've captured, the enemies fall back even further. Since they lined up so well, I throw a spear near Pyke's feet. If Pyke were to dodge upwards, Kai'Sa would get stuck and autopod straight into the spear. Since my spear is about to hit Kai'Sa, I exit the bush. This is because dealing damage from bush reveals you, and I want to reset their vision as soon as possible. I also switch to Cougar form in case first strike was ready. Now that my self-reveal is broken, I can reclaim their bush. Since Pyke is approaching, I hug the wall while attempting to push forwards towards the bush's edge. There, I want to check if the next minion wave aggroes on me. If they don't, that generally means the bush isn't warded. Now that the next wave arrives, the enemies make an attempt to reclaim the area we've zoned them off from. Caitlyn and I now have to distance ourselves from Pyke in case he queues. Caitlyn found cover behind her minions, so I back off into the alcove. Occasionally, this puts you out of minion XP range, but no minions that well was in there. Now that Pyke missed his Q, I can reclaim the bush. With some prediction or quick reaction, you can solo clear wards using your basic attack reset, so I mentally prepare myself for this case. Caitlyn is about to Q the minion wave, and the enemies are standing far behind. This ensures that we will hit level 2 before the enemies. Since I don't have a clear shot and spears cost a lot of mana, I decided to do a basic attack instead. Caitlyn started approaching the enemy side, so Pyke is forced to fall back. If I throw a spear now, it will either hit Pyke or force him to dodge and walk into Caitlyn's basic attack range. Now that Caitlyn is in close range, we can work together on keeping the enemy bot lane away from the minion experience range. I walk in and out of the bush to break vision constantly. This could trick Kai'Sa into clicking on me too late and walking too far into our side by accident. Also, we are 1 minion away from leveling up, so tricking them into a fight could give us a strong lead. First, let's back up and watch the enemy's point of view. During the first minion wave, I was visible to the enemies 40% of the time and invisible 60% of the time, giving them very little chance to react to what I do. Now, Caitlyn killed a minion, giving us the level lead. Caitlyn will now abuse this lead by pushing even further, so I break vision and re-engage. Caitlyn is in direct line of sight with Pyke's pull. Since she leveled her trap second, she is unable to use net shot away. Since Pyke's hook forces him to stand still, I punish him by throwing a spear. With this shiny visual effect, I've confirmed that Pyke is about to die and can't be saved anymore. Once Nidalee starts her Cougar Q, flashing won't break the attack. I ignite just in case, as my opponents usually escape fights with single-digit HP. Kai'Sa positions herself between the turret and the wall, making it much harder to dodge incoming skill shots. This gives me a very good opportunity to throw a spear. Since it seems like my spear will hit, I back off and prevent the tower from aggroing on me. I approach Kai'Sa to make her think that I'm tower diving, but instead use my basic attack reset combo on the turret. Note that melee champions deal more damage to tower platings, so this helps us with getting the first plating much quicker and giving us a bigger gold lead in the process. I also leap away right after the combo to prevent Kai'Sa from dealing too much damage. Kai'Sa is now standing against the bottom wall once again, isolated from her minions. This gives me space to throw a spear, but she can find cover behind minions quickly. I instead reposition myself before throwing this spear. My spear is in a direct path with Kai'Sa and the minion she's trying to attack. Since her cursor is likely on that minion, she will have very little time to avoid my spear. I walk back once more to prevent tower aggro. Caitlyn is going in for a basic attack, so I move forward to dive for the kill while my passive is still applied. Here, I misread the minions and thought they were heading into turret range, which would have allowed me to safely escape. Coincidentally, I got a clutch execute instead. This effectively sped up the time it would take for me to return to lane after recalling. As much as I'd like to pretend it was intended, this was just a happy accident. Caitlyn uses net shots and Pyke is about to put his Q on cooldown. Caitlyn is unlikely to survive this. All I care about for now is that Pyke has used all his abilities. Pyke is walking in front of Caitlyn to block her movement and setting up the kill for his carry. Knowing Pyke's abilities are on cooldown, I can potentially clean up the kill here. If I jump in now, I get a free kill on Pyke and be in a position to trade with Kai'Sa. This is because Kai'Sa will be tanking my minions while fighting me. Since Kai'Sa decided to run up, I disengage and make my way to a bush to break vision. This is done to prevent Kai'Sa from proccing her passive. While I fall back from the fight, Kai'Sa will still tank the minions. Since Kai'Sa is running straight to the edge of the bush, I presume she's going to ward. Since this action forces her to run in a straight line for the moment, I punish it by throwing a spear. Unlike earlier times when the opponent could have warded, I have no interest in clearing this ward, as doing so could allow Kai'Sa to proc her passive. I fall back to the lowest bush. Since Kai'Sa is trying to break vision and minion aggro, I trap the middle bush. This trap gives vision of the bush long enough for a melee minion to make its way into the bush and maintain the minion aggro. If she were to step into the trap, I'd be able to use my enhanced leap to nuke her as soon as her passive wears out. Immediately before I use my burst, Kai'Sa exhausts me to lower my damage. This forces me to break vision once again. I can't fall back to her side as the minion wave is arriving. Because Kai'Sa didn't fall back and position herself behind her minions, I threw another spear to reapply my hunted passive while still trying to make my way to the bush before Kai'Sa procs her passive. Kai'Sa is about to succeed in proccing her passive, but in the process started tanking minions once more. She now starts backing off, but it's too late. The minions are attacking her, my hunt is applied on her, and there's still a trap to reapply my hunt. My next and final objective is to go in for the kill and back to base to buy items. On the minimap, I notice Lilia showing herself on the topside river, so I know I'm mostly safe to recall now. Since Caitlyn was level 3 when she died and Pyke was level 2, I know that Pyke will be back in lane a little bit earlier than Caitlyn, but not in time to kill me. I could have just used my leap into the alcove and recalled there, but I wanted to make 100% sure I didn't blunder a shutdown, so I ran back to the turret. Just before recalling, I heal myself and swap to Cougar form. Both of these are to get to lane quicker. Cougar form allows me to use my leap when I'm leaving base, so I have to do less actions in there. It also allows me to react quicker to incoming threats, in case there are any. The heal is better to cause before the recall, because it has a missing health amplifier. In Fountain, I'll be full mana before I'm full health anyways, so this reduces my waiting time a bit more. Please let me know in the comments below what you think of the video. This video took me about 100 hours to make, as I have no prior experience. Feel free to drop a like or a subscribe, but currently I have no estimate on when the next video will be finished, as I haven't even started working on them yet. I'm Dryad, and I thank you for watching.